Hello everyone, this is TheSC here, back with some more StarCraft 2 action. This time it is a continuation of probably my best show match, best of 7 to date. It is going to be TLO spawning up in the top right side as the purple Zerg, and down in the bottom left side, it is going to be Mr. Whitera himself, currently down 3-1, or I guess you would say at 1-3. He's got to win a lot of games to take this series. He was able to take the previous game in a pretty convincing fashion, but one thing I do want to say is that TLO has been playing very well in this series. His scouting timing has been good, his decision making has been good, and in the last game he did let it slip a little bit, and I don't know if that was intentional or not, but either way, you know, Whitera was able to take advantage of that and punish him. And Whitera is one of those players that, you know, if you make major mistakes like that, he's not going to let you get away with it. Now, TLO, though, so far has shown quite a variation in builds. We saw that very early Roach Rush with that Nidus Worm inside the main base, which you do not see all that often. It's one of those situations where a Protoss player thinks they're safe, and then all of a sudden they still have units streaming inside their base. TLO even bringing in the drones to engage in that battle and somehow managed to make that one work, which we have seen recently on my channel, a couple of games where the Protoss player doesn't keep his first initial stalkers alive well enough, and they end up losing the game. Now, is that the only reason they lost the game? Probably not, but you definitely can't win it if you're losing all your units like that. So Whitera now is going to have to keep his cool, given they're just playing a fun game. There's not like $1 bajillion on the line or anything, but to keep going through this series, he's definitely going to have to play very well and just continue on through. Now, it does look like Whitera's saving up for his Nexus first, and he saw the timing of the spawning pool there, was able to count these drones right there. I mean, if you're counting like upwards of 13 to 15 drones, it's going to be okay to drop your Nexus here. And we do have the early natural not being taken. It is instead going to be this third base down here. This is super common on this map for Zerg players to do. So Whitera's going to scout up here, and he's going to see, okay, well, there's nothing else inside the main base. No gas is being taken. He doesn't need to scout behind the mineral line because there's no gas being taken. So he knows kind of what's going on here. That's why he's going to scout down here, see if there is indeed a third base. As a lot of Zergs on the Grandmaster level of play, they're determined just to play out a macro-style game. They're not going to be thrown off their you know, their initial build order of getting expansions up quite early. And I mean, if you look at the resources of what units cost here, or what the buildings cost, yes, a Roach Warren doesn't take any gas, but a Baneling Nest does, so that's completely not an option. But if you throw down the Roach Horn before you're getting gas on the way, then it's kind of silly, because you're not going to be able to produce roaches as quickly as you would like. This Overlord needs to be very careful here. He's making a mad dash past the Photon Cannon. I think he will end up being safe there, but definitely want to keep an eye on that. Sometimes Zerg players out there, usually at the lower level of play, definitely not in Grandmaster, will end up losing that first Overlord because they forget about him. But that is not the case. He's only going to be shot a couple of times and manages to escape on through. So no big deal there. And he gets a spot exactly the timing of the expansion. The cannon. Is there a cybernetics core at the expansion yet? All of these things are going to be very important. It does look like Whitera decides this time to drop the cybernetics core at the expansion instead of in the main base. The reason he's doing it on this map like this is because this map does have a slightly bigger entrance, and that if you just put a pylon here like we've seen on other maps, the entrance is way too big. You're going to take like 5 Zealots to block that off instead of just the one. So he may drop a pylon kind of like right, I would assume right here, so we can put one guy right there. We'll see exactly how he decides to play that one out, but he does have the double gas on the way. And when does he decide to get the double gas? At the expansion. Gas always so important for Protoss, and I was kind of thinking about it a little bit, and I mean, really, if you think about it on paper, Protoss basically has the most tier 3 units in the game if you include Dark Templar and High Templar. So they have carriers, mothership, Colossus, of course, Dark Templar, High Templar, and I guess you could kind of count the Archon into that. So, you know, for that reason, Protoss is trying to make it to the end game. They're trying to get that the extra gas as soon as they possibly can, and so we'll see if that's exactly how Whitera's going to play it out, or if he wants to go for some sort of 2-base timing that doesn't require getting that gas out super early, instead relying more on those gateway units. Right now, though, he's playing a completely standard, getting that +1 attack, and hasn't added on that many production facilities by any means. There goes down 1 gas for now. And what is the tech going to be? It is going to be a Stargate here. This is a nice build to go versus Zerg because you can get out 1 Void Ray for defense. Kind of an interesting positioning on the Stargate here, in that Whitera's going to be able to get that unit to his opponent's base sooner. Double Stargate, very interesting, but at the same time, this Overlord is almost within, like, spitting distance of spotting that. So we'll see if he's able to spot these two right there. And that is an interesting choice to me. Usually, if I was playing, of course, I'm no Whitera, I would think that putting them in the center of the base is a little bit better just for denying scouting, because we saw the importance of scouting in the last time that Whitera went for double Stargate, and TLO spotted it right away, was able to prepare amply, and then it never really did all that much damage. So is TLO going to continue the decent scouting that we've seen so far? I wouldn't be surprised if he did. Now, you want to scout the main base between the 6 and 8 minute mark. That's usually what Zerg players do. We'll see if TLO decides to go ahead and do that. He could turn this Overlord into an Overseer, although he doesn't have his lair tech quite done yet, only halfway. Or no, even just a quarter way here. And yep, there's the Overlord right there. He's going to spot it immediately. This Overlord could immediately turn around and be just fine. You can see Whitera right there is rallying down there to go ahead and clean that one out. 2 Evo chambers go down immediately. A lot of extra drones being produced as well, so he can actually afford to lose quite a few drones, because he has 59 to 46 plus the additional ones that are going to be spawning right here. So this time it is a Void Ray and a Phoenix, although I'm kind of confused as to why Ross shows this off to TLO. He's like, look, I'm not getting double Void Ray. I'm instead getting Phoenix. So now you got to start protecting your Overlords more, because I will have a lot more map control. Now, having this scouted by no means does it mean that it makes it a completely worthless build, because as a Protoss player, this is going to be giving you a lot of map control. It's going to allow you to secure your third base, which is exactly what Whitera is going to be doing here, because Zerg player is going to be preoccupied defending their main and their 2 expansions that they have at this point. Now, right now, the Spore Caller positioning is pretty good, although he does decide to waddle one over here, which was an interesting choice. I felt like it was in a good position. Now the mineral line is exposed, although it does look like he will still hold this off for now with another Spore Caller on the way. And how many Spore Callers is TLO making? It does look like quite a few. An additional one right there, and any in the main base. Yep, so, I mean, this is a lot of drones invested and a lot of money and larva invested into this, but it does mean the Phoenix will be a lot less successful in killing off the drones, because there's just so many Spore Crawlers that they will eventually get taken out. A couple Overlords are vulnerable here, but once the additional Spore Crawler finishes, they should be relatively safe. Now, Whitera's really ramping up the pressure here by attacking. He decided not to expand. Instead, I think he liked what he saw here, is that there's not a lot of ground army, so he's got to be switching it up by getting more ground forces for the attack over here. And TLO was preparing for pure air, so I think Whitera's doing a little bit of a tech switch in that he's not just producing mass air units, and he has his units sitting here intercepting the reinforcements, and he can start using the Void Ray here to pick off these Zerglings. This is a lot of Phoenix, which means a lot of dead drones and queens there at that location. There's another battle taking place down here. They do get surrounded, TLO deciding to back out though, and the battle is kind of far and wide here, but it does look like one Phoenix goes down. TLO not really getting all of his queens killed here just yet. I was keeping an eye on it, and his queen count is still at 2, which is 1 per each base, which is not bad. He is going to lose this third base undoubtedly, though. And nice force fields there. Look at this to keep the Zealots from getting surrounded. Beautiful force fields by this one little sentry. Sentry, you deserve a medal. While all you guys did die, it made it very cost effective. Units lost here is snowballing out of control for TLO. His crisis management in this game is not going to be the most efficient. The infestors are now out. Do they have enough for fungal growths? No, they don't. No pathogen glands there quite yet. This is a lot of Zealots. Zealots versus drones. I wonder who's going to win this battle, especially since the Zealots have the +1 attack. And it does look like this build out of TLO is not the best response here for the build out of Whitera. The drone's finally getting back to work. It does look like the Infested Terrans managed to hold this off for now. And I'm kind of curious on the units lost here. It is still greatly favoring the Protoss, and he's continuing to kill off a couple Overlords here and there. Some more reinforcements on the way. Ooh, uh-oh, there's a little Infestor down here, almost getting forgotten about, but he will not die today. At least not die at this moment. But what will die is a couple of drones, potentially the Queen, and it does go down. Does he kill the Infestor? Yes, he does. And that is going to help make the units lost tab even more favorable into Whitera's side. The Spore Caller is trying to burrow here, but these Phoenix is so annoying. He will eventually retreat, though. You do have to remember, though, that Whitera was unable to secure a third base during this. He will, however, kill off a couple of Lings here. The Lings do have 1/1, which means the Roaches has the 1 armor upgrade to help kind of counteract the +1 attack of the Zealots. And it does look like TLO will get some free Zealot kills here, and this is going to help him just a little bit, but it is not enough. I wouldn't say it's too little too late, but he has to make sure that he is prepared for whatever Whitera's going to be throwing at him here relatively soon. Oh, got a wall back over there because if he gets off the creep, he will begin taking damage. We do have +1 armor on the way. Uh-oh! Oh, a couple lings inside the main base. That's not a lot of lings, but they are going to scout exactly what's going on here. Double Robo and the Robotics Bay, so he knows what's up. Could kill his pylon to unpower potentially 3 gateways, but it does look like the warp in here will be able to save that. And the Phoenix Void Rays continuing to press out and continuing to do a lot of damage to this army. And does he turn him around? No, he decides to go for the main base, it looks like, then turning back around. But right now, Whitera, while he did get scouted, was able to clean that up quite handily, and also has his double robo on the way, which I highly recommend going double robo. Really to transition out of almost anything. If you're able to do a big gateway play that does some damage, then go double robo. If you're able to do double Stargate, then try and go double robo. I just think it's a very strong build versus Zerg, because you can get the Immortals to counteract the Roaches, and also you can get the Colossus to counteract the Infestors if they do go for that. And also, they're most likely not going to have a ton of Corruptors at this point in the game, because Corruptors are not very good versus Void Rays and Phoenix. Yes, it is something that Zerg players may end up making, but a lot of times they will go for Infestors to try and fungal the Phoenix there. So being able to get out Immortals and Colossus is the perfect transition. We do have the third base finally on the way here for Whitera. It is nowhere near completed though, so if he's unable to do any damage down here at this expansion, surprised to see Fungal Growth used there, but it did prevent those Zealots from getting inside that mineral line, so that is helping out TLO here just a little bit. But he has a lot of padding to get through here. I mean, look at this, 6,600 to 4,200 resources lost. The drone count is 66 to 48, now up to 69. Not bad at all. It's just the tech advantage is really going to favor Whitera right here. It's one of those situations where if TLO does not start getting out Corruptors right now, he is going to be in a world of hurt, because, I mean, those Colossus are going to be hitting mighty, mighty soon. We do have, oh, that was a Colossus, but it is indeed an Observer. The Thermal Lance has already begun. That means as soon as these Colossus spawn, they are going to be ready to go, which, speaking of spawning, 2 of them are right here with +1/+1. So if TLO does not make something happen and make it happen quickly, he is going to be in a lot of trouble. I think he kind of knows that. He knows he needs to make something happen here. He's got to attempt with a small attack force here. This is really all he can muster for now, but the force fields could trap all these units. Nope, they're going to slip through. Zerglings are the slipperiest of ground units ever in the history of StarCraft, and the force fields are unable to trap those. Yeah, trying to hide a base right here. This is not going to happen, though. This Zealot's like, no, I'll just watch you, bro. But does indeed go ahead and get that going once again. Oh, there's the force fields we needed to see, and that does mean a lot of Zerglings trying to run into the natural, so he has all the right ideas considering how far behind he is. It's just really what can he do, and attacking these rocks is a horrible idea because they can get picked up by the Phoenix, plus the Colossus have an insane range now that the Thermal Lance is done, and it does look like the Infested Terrans able to kill this expansion. Good idea here, TLO, killing that for the cost of energy. He's also going to be killing off some of these Zealots with the, maybe some of the Zealots. No, they died so quickly because of that 1/1 upgrade, but was able to kill that expansion, which is very nice. But did he do enough damage with that? I'm not quite sure, but the Infestor hit squad is completely, almost completely out of energy anyway. Not going to be able to do massive Fungals or anything like that, but really once the Colossus are on the field, Fungals are not that good because the Fungals are best versus the Phoenix, and they're best, oh, right there, able to grab 2. I don't know if it's worth continuing to fungal that though just for 2 Phoenix, but yeah, the Fungals are best versus the Phoenix and versus Blink Stalkers. Really, we don't see either of those. These Phoenix can just go ahead and die now, and the game would still be in Whitera's favor. But you do have to remember with the Corruptors on the way, that could very well change. So using the Phoenix to absorb some of that Corruptor damage can really pay off in a longer-winded game like this. I mean, take a look. We're going on to the 19-20 minute mark, and TLO is able to get up that 4th base. If we do take a look at the spending, overall he has spent more money, which means he is mining more money, which means that even though he has lost a lot, he can still get himself back into this, continuing to produce a lot of army units here, working on the 2-2 now, going up against the 3-2 of the Protoss. We do see this Phoenix finally got to get taken out. This is really good for TLO. While I did say he can throw these away, at the same time, now that TLO has a lot of Corruptors on the field, that does mean that those Colossus are kind of sitting ducks. While there are a couple of Void Rays here to take some of that damage, those Colossus are going to take a lot of the damage as well. So I'm curious to see what exactly Whitera does here, knowing that Corruptors are on the field. Does he keep producing a lot of Colossus? Does he just produce a couple? Does he switch to Blink Stalkers, which you do see Blink on the way? Or does he get Archons, which are a potential threat because now he has a Templar Archives here? This is going to show if Whitera is going to win this game decisively, or if he's going to allow TLO to claw his way back into this game. I love the addition of cannons here. This prevents those infestors from getting at that location, and with an observer in this army, it does, I believe he has an observer somewhere, he is going to be able to kill off 2 of the infestors from the hit squad. So this infestor hit squad is now much more small. So TLO not going to be able to claw his way back in just using infestors anymore, as Whitera has wised up. He has detection now and is able to prevent that from happening. Yep, there's the observer with that army right there. And the 4th base is up and running for both players. TLO, though, definitely going to be having the expansion timing advantage. But the problem is that ZerG always wants to be ahead in an expansion. So as soon as the probes transfer over here, TLO is going to have to start thinking about another base, which is potentially what he's doing over here, as he has scouted out this location and maybe primed to expand there. We'll see, though, because this is where Protoss, oh dear, Infestor hit squad is now down to nobody left. Only 2 infestors on the field, but there's just nowhere that TLO can slip those infestors in, because, I mean, he took so much damage from that initial opener. Does look like he's taking his 5th base down here, which is exactly what he needs to do, as his decision making still showing us that it is pretty darn good. Working on a lot of upgrades here for the Protoss. Oh, we have a fleet bacon for everybody if you're on the Protoss side. If you're on ZerG side, all you get to eat is creep, which is kind of disgusting if you ask me. But we do have a fleet beacon on the way, plus 3 attack nearly done. 3 armor is on the way as well. This is going to be devastating unit composition coming out of Whitera. This is exactly what Protoss loves, is when you're kind of feigning a little bit of pressure here by having your army at the forward location, so you're just moments away from the opponent's base. Oh dear, that's a lot of Broodlords. As the Greater Spire has finished, 10 Broodlords on the way. Is this going to be enough? Because the main problem is that with so many Colossus and Archons, they can actually clean up the Broodlings faster than they're spawning. And Zerglings down here could kill off a pylon there if they decide to, and they do. Whitera going to be moving down here, realizing, hey, there's a big army down here I could potentially kill off. TLO, also with the good decision making, is only going to lose those lings that killed that pylon, which does decide to burrow there. I don't think that's his last-ditch effort. Oh, he is going to survive there. So a little Zergling there could also burrow, unburrow, and then burrow right there to prevent that expansion from going down. These guys are going to be going down here to the 5th base to attempt to take it out. They are sent on Mission Impossible. I don't know if it's going to be enough. All the Zealots really being sent down there. I believe that's almost every single Zealot. The Zergling counterattack coming down here. I don't know what TLO expects here, but it is definitely not exposed, as another cannon is going to be finishing. So 4 cannons in all, and a couple of roaches as well. Whitera, I don't even know. He doesn't even care, man, because he's attacking the expansion down here. TLO definitely needs to pay attention. And is he going to warp in any units? Yes, he does. Whitera needed to defend this location. He is losing a lot of probes here. Way too many probes. And that's going to help even it up even more. But the Zealots over here were able to take down that base. But most of the probes, I would say a surprisingly and shocking amount of probes got taken out there. A couple of burrowed Zerglings. And did he burrow the roaches as well? Yes, he did. That one roach is back up to full HP. But there's basically a timer on how long this roach can stay burrowed, because there is a cannon on the way, so he does decide to unburrow and continue to harass here. Whitera needs to make sure not to allow this to happen. What is this army doing right here? They are just chilling out, I guess just waiting for the mothership to spawn, and we do have High Templar here now, but no Psystorm in sight, so that does mean it is going to be Archon out of Whitera. There it is indeed, but Whitera has taken a lot of damage at this base. I mean, it is not saturated at all. Look at the income tab. In comparison, the spinning tab now favors the Protoss player, I would say, overall in the important parts of the army and the tech. Economy is kind of important, but ZerG players tend to outspend anyways, because drones, well, you have to make a lot of them to make all your buildings. This is a lot of Broodlords. I really like this out of our ZerG player. But also, as Protoss, you got to remember, going late game versus ZerG with this many Broodlords and this many Corruptors, you have to go for the mothership. That's exactly what we saw. Oh, the poor Observer was just chilling there all day, finally getting taken out. But the mothership is now here. But does she have enough energy for Vortex? Not quite yet. So he's going to want to wait here for the energy on Vortex. Decides just to take out his anger on those rocks, showing you how quickly you can actually kill those with a 3 upgraded army, 3 attack, and we also have 2 weapons on the way for air. An interesting choice, but he's playing it a little bit more old school by grabbing out a couple of Void Rays. The Void Ray kind of faded out of popularity just because, you know, I mean, with a bunch of Hydras, they don't really do all that much, so ZerG players would start countering that. But if they go for Broodlord Corruptor, then it's not that bad. Now, TLO, what is his anti-air situation looking like? He does have 3 Infestors and 17 Corruptors. He needs to not make too many Broodlords. He does have 17 Broodlords, but I'm really curious to see how this plays out, because really this is just going to come down to a ridiculously large scale battle. It's got to come down to, I would say, the Vortex. If he can Vortex all the Broodlords, he's going to be in great shape, but look at this army. My computer can barely handle this army. There's so many Broodlords. Now he is going to reveal to his opponent exactly what it is that he has. Whitera is going to be completely out of position here, and I don't know if base racing this many Broodlords is a good idea, although Broodlords, I guess, do move very slowly, and nope, TLO does decide to back out here, and we are going to see one ridiculously sized battle, both completely maxed out. Look at this, 207 supply out of 200. You do not see that very often. What you do is build a bunch of spine crawlers, and then make the army and then cancel the spines, but here we go. This army is massive. Can TLO escape? Yes, he can. There goes one Vortex. Does suck in a couple of Broodlords. Not as many as he would like, though, as the energy on this mothership is not high enough to do another Vortex quite yet. There is no counterattack, so we can just go ahead and re-hide this UI. And I don't even know what's going to be happening here, but what you want to keep an eye on is the supply count. A couple Broodlords will go down up at the north side. The mothership will go down, though. The Archon's popping out of that Archon Flood. The Corruptors are completely bunched up. The Broodlords relatively close as well. 150 supply to 133. And the Archons just are not dying. A couple of the Broodlings, though, will clean up a couple of the Archons. Can he kill off these Broodlords? What is the unit count at now? It is only 7 Broodlords remaining, but the Protoss army's not faring much better, and it does look like TLO will hold for now. The Broodling number's way too strong. These Void Rays were able to kill off several Corruptors, and they could kill off some Broodlords here. Yep, there we go. You got to cancel those Corruptors. He needs to make sure to keep his Corruptor count high, because that is going to kill off everything that Whitera has. And that battle, not a complete success for either player. Look at the units lost here, still relatively even. The expansion has been taken out, and you got to remember, this base does not exist down here. There's not a base set up here. So the income tab for TLO all of a sudden has plummeted, while for Whitera, it still remained the same. So even though the units lost overall was about the same, Whitera coming out ahead, it is going to allow him to catch back up in that units tab, which he absolutely needs to do. Getting a lot of Archons is good. He is now out of gas, though, so he actually may have to make Zealots, which is not an ideal choice because you're just going to be fighting Broodlings with those, and those are basically free once you have the actual Broodlord itself. So Whitera needs to make sure to deal with these Broodlords, and TLO needs to make sure to keep the Broodlords alive, which kind of sounds, you know, like a no-brainer, but at the same time, he doesn't have a base to replenish them. They are not expendable at all. So every Broodling he can spawn here is ideal, and what are his upgrades at? They are at 3-2 for these Broodlings, so that's going to be very difficult for our Protoss player to deal with. Now, thankfully, Archons do outrange the Broodlings, obviously, because Broodlings are a straight-in-your-face melee unit. The Blinkstalkers over here do need to be careful. A lot of Changelings just chilling out over here. If these are set to hold position, they could prove to be annoying. And Whitera, I don't know really what he can do here. It is going to be very, very tough, as all of his Archons are getting eliminated. And this is not looking good for him at all. I don't know if he has an answer for these Broodlords. It's 88 supply to 139, and using the Void Rays will be effective until the Corruptors show up, because right now the Corruptors are nowhere in sight. These Changelings just being so annoying. They're even being told to attack the Nexus, but as if the Zealots did not have a wet noodle enough, these guys have even wetter of a noodle because they can't even attack with it. But they do look pretty cool in their big armor outfits. And trying to kill the Automaton 2000 there. They can't even kill a critter. And will Whitera spend the time to kill these off? It is probably not worth it because he needs to focus on building as many units as he can. He does have 2,000 resources, but he doesn't have any gas. There he is going to go ahead and kill off a Broodlord or two. The Corruptors will be able to finish this, but he is killing a surprising amount of Broodlords. You remember, they take so much damage from the Void Rays, especially since they have 2 attack and 2 shields. But there we go. A wise fungal growth is going to clean these ones out. And this expansion right here is very vulnerable now with only 3 cannons here to defend. Although TLO does decide to back out as he is going to wait for the Broodlords. TLO still is not mining that much. He did get this base back up and running, so that's going to be good on him. But counterattack from Whitera could help him get him back in this game because there is no defense back here, just the 1 spine crawler. But can he actually do enough damage to win? That is the real question. It's got to come down to yet another Mothership Vortex to try and stay in this game, but I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. The probe count is just getting whittled down substantially. Then they decide to run out of there. You can hear the Changelings dying all the way across the map, but here comes the counterattack. He's got to go straight for the hatchery. I think killing off some of the Lings may be a better option, but there we go. So he's going to be backed up against the wall, which is good for Zealots, which means they may kill off a surprising amount of units here. You can see TLO trying to microwave, but no, he is going to lose a substantial amount of Lings and drones. But that Nexus for Whitera has fallen. It feels like a Whitera, though, got to be pushing forward. Takes out one Infestor and a second one. Is he able to get the third one? Not quite yet. This expansion very vulnerable, though, as Whitera doing everything he can to hang on here. But if he loses this game, I do believe that this will be it for him. Although, I was thinking about it, I don't know if the first game actually counts in this best of 7 series. I don't know if they played once on ladder, then started best of series, or if the game was part of the best series. So we'll see if there's more games in the replay pack after Whitera, if he ends up losing this game. But if he somehow manages to pull this one out and somehow manages to win, then who knows? Who knows what could happen? But right now, it's definitely got to be favoring our ZerG player TLO at this point. Whitera just has no income. The Nexus is nearly completed. He's trying to hide the Nexus down in the bottom right side. But I mean, how long can he really hang on with a Mothership and 3 Stalkers? Not very long. And there goes the Mothership. He is going to have the Vortex here. TLO trying to spread his Corruptors out as best he can. Needs to throw a Vortex. I wasn't able to even get that one off. So there's the GG. Well played. And I guess technically right now TLO is 4-1 versus Whitera. But I just thought about it. I had a thought. And I think that the first game didn't actually count in this best of 7 series. So I'm going to check the replay pack, see if there's any more replays in there. If there is, then I will of course cast them. If there's not, thank you for watching this. But I think there will be more replays in there now that I've kind of thought about it. And Whitera, man, really struggling versus TLO. There was some crazy big battles there, but wasn't able to deal with the sheer amount of Broodlords that were on the field. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.